Welcome. I'm Father Kevin, and this is Alert to Good News. Here's a video reflection on the gospel for the solemnity of the baptism of the Lord. Today we celebrate the baptism of the Lord. In the life-giving waters of baptism, we are identified by God as belonging to a community of disciples of Jesus. Now, baptism is really a transformative experience in which God abides in us and we abide in God. Think about that. A tremendous reality of our faith. The triune God lives within us and we live within the triune God. And God empowers us by his grace and favor to live God-like lives. In this celebratory event, we renew our own baptismal promises. And the start of the new year is a perfect time to do so. In the gospel, John baptizes Jesus in the waters of the Jordan River. The power of God overwhelms Jesus, and fired up, Jesus begins his public ministry, proclaiming a new purpose for you and me, for all of us, symbolized in a dove that suggests new beginnings. Yes, we are new creatures destined for life beyond this earthly life, where one day we shall be like God and see God as God really is. John's vocation was clearly to point to Jesus as the long-awaited Messiah. We might ask, by virtue of who we are and what we do, whether we reflect Jesus in our relationships with one another. And what is John doing? He is baptizing, inviting people to live a God-like, a God-centered, other-centered life. Baptism is a rite of initiation into a worldwide community of disciples, numbering perhaps over 1,000,000,003 Catholics and 800,000 Protestants and Orthodox. Early on, candidates were often immersed in water. And by the 11th century, baptism by the pouring of water over the head of the candidate became common practice. We baptize children to emphasize that baptism is a gift from God. It's not something we choose. It's a gift from God, freely given. And to understand baptism, we have to understand who we are in relationship with God. The book of Genesis captures this reality magnificently in a story. In the beginning, man and woman walked with God. They had a close friendship with God and with one another. But somehow or other, they lost that friendship. They fell from grace. And the author describes how this fall from grace happened. They hid from God, and man blamed woman, and all the earthly elements began to work against them. But ever since, the human family has cried out for God's friendship again. And so God, through Jesus, by the power of the Spirit, reestablishes our close friendship. Baptism initiates us into a new community of fellowship and grace. And this makes straightforward demands upon us. The so-called Ten Commandments are really about freeing ourselves from attitudes and behaviors that undermine our relationship with God and our relationships with one another. Put simply, God is almighty and all-present, a God of love, and our response is gratitude. And this planet reflects the image of God everywhere. And so every creation, God's people especially, is worthy of reverence and respect. God challenges us to live virtuous lives. The commandments underscore virtues we should practice every day. For example, faithfulness, truthfulness, generosity, and respect for others. And so I invite you today to renew our own baptismal promises, to live as sons and daughters of God, and to be a living gospel to others in this Jubilee year of hope. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may you always be alert to good news, and have a blessed day.